All right, get ready because we're diving deep into the world of entrepreneurship today. We've got some excerpts from the 1 Minute Entrepreneur, and wow, this book is straight to the point. It hits you with a pretty stark truth right away. 96% of small businesses fail within 10 years.
That's a tough statistic to swallow.
Yeah.
But the authors, Ken Blanchard, Don Hudson, and Ethan Willis, don't waste any time, addressing this really common pitfall. They actually call it the technician turned entrepreneur.
Okay.
It's somebody who's amazing at what they do. Maybe they're a plumber or a graphic designer, but they struggle when it comes to actually building a business around that skill.
So it's not just about being good at something. You need more. What's missing?
Yeah. The book really highlights three crucial elements: finances, managing people, and taking care of your customers. Like, you could be the best baker in the world, but if you don't know how to manage your money, build a team, or keep your customers happy, well, your business is going to struggle.
That makes a lot of sense. And they use this really interesting approach, right? They tell the story of Jud McCarley. He's this fictional entrepreneur who learns all of these lessons the hard way.
Yeah. Jud's journey is almost like a case study in like what not to do when you're starting out.
Right.
He makes a lot of classic mistakes. He even ends up in jail at one point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But those failures, they really become his biggest learning opportunities.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
So his dad gives him some really great advice, and I love this. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, yeah.
Choose your circle wisely. And then there's his football coach, who gives him a notebook and encourages him to write down what he calls 1-minute insights, those like little bits of wisdom that he comes across, I wonder what those notebooks would look like after years of collecting those insights.
That's a great question. It's really all about developing a habit of reflecting, constantly learning. And, as an entrepreneur, that's essential. And so Jud actually starts out selling seminar tickets, which exposes him to all this knowledge from all these really successful speakers.
So he's like getting a crash course in entrepreneurship.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's where he meets Tremendous Jones, who becomes his mentor, his lifelong mentor,
Yeah.
and really shapes his whole entrepreneurial philosophy, right?
Yeah, tremendous. He really stresses the importance of seeking out mentors. He tells Jud, if you want to be successful, find someone who's already doing what you want to do and just ask them how they did it.
I love that. It's so simple, but so powerful.
Exactly. And he also emphasizes the importance of listening more than you talk, building genuine relationships, and understanding that rejection is just part of the process. You can't let it get you down.
Okay, that listening more than you talk thing, that really resonates with me. It's so easy to get caught up in, trying to convince people, but truly listening to what they need, that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. And this leads into one of the core principles of the book: finding your entrepreneurial passion. Tremendous challenges, Jud, to answer these two really crucial questions. And the first one is, what do I like to do most?
Okay.
And then, will anybody actually give me money to do it? It's about aligning your passion with a business opportunity, something that's viable.
Yeah, so it's not just about doing what you love. It's about finding a way to make it work in the real world.
Exactly. And Jud, he discovers that his passion is really in speaking, connecting with people, and just sharing what he knows. And that's where his entrepreneurial journey really takes off. But he doesn't do it alone, right?
Right.
He meets Terry, his future wife, who becomes his business partner. And together they launch their company, JTA, Jud McCarley and Associates.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
No.
But building a business with your significant other, that's got to come with its own unique challenges.
Oh, absolutely. They really struggle to find that balance between their personal lives and their work lives. And at this marriage encounter event, they learn about the 30% rule. Basically, the idea is that couples should be spending at least 30% of their waking hours together, doing things together.
Dude, that's a big commitment, especially when you're both trying to get a business off the ground.
It is.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not about, just the quantity of time. It's more about the quality, right?
Right.
Intentionally making time to connect and recharge, even if it's just for, 30 minutes here and there.
Okay, so they're building their business, strengthening their relationship, and they get some really solid advice from this seasoned entrepreneur, Harris Palmer. He tells them, make sure your sales are exceeding your expenses. Pretty obvious, right? But I bet you'd be surprised how many businesses forget that basic principle.
Yeah, he really hammers home that point. He also emphasizes collecting bills, staying on top of your cash flow. Cash flow is the lifeblood of any business. And if you're not keeping track of your receivables, you're putting yourself at risk. And he's also big on prioritizing both customers and employees.
It goes back to that balance we were just talking about, right?
Right.
You can't just focus on one or the other. You need happy customers and a happy team.
Right.
So JTA starts to grow, they're getting clients, and then they hit a snag, a financial snag.
Yeah, classic entrepreneurial tale, right?
Yeah.
They start expanding too quickly, hiring more employees, getting a bigger office, and suddenly they're losing money. They're in the red.
It's that classic problem of growing too fast without the systems to handle it.
Right.
It's a good reminder that growth isn't always good if it's not sustainable. So they call in their financial guru, Juan, and what does he tell them to do?
Juan drops this, like radical wisdom on them. He tells them to open their books to their employees.
Wait.
Yeah. Share the financial realities, the good and the bad. He believes that when employees understand the financial health of the business, they become more invested in its success. And he actually shares this great example from his own experience as a restaurant owner.
Okay, hold on. Isn't that kind of risky? I mean, what if the employees freak out when they see the company struggling?
It does go against, conventional wisdom.
Mm.
But Juan believes in radical transparency. So he explains how he once showed his staff the impact of one burned steak on their profit margin.
A burned steak.
Yeah, and the cook realized he had to sell 6 more steaks just to make up for that one mistake.
Wow. So it really brings it home, like the connection between, everyone's actions and the overall success of the business.
Exactly.
So what happens when Jud and Terry take Juan's advice? Do the employees panic?
Actually, the opposite happens.
Really?
The employees, they rally around Jud and Terry. They're willing to tighten their belts and help the company get back on track. And they turn things around in less than 2 years.
Wow. That's a powerful testament to trust and transparency.
It really is.
So they're out of the woods financially, but I'm guessing the story doesn't end there.
Oh, you're right. It definitely doesn't end there. They've weathered the financial storm, but they realize something's still missing. They haven't figured out how to create, a truly exceptional customer experience.
This is where Lou, their customer service guru, steps in.
Right.
He's the one who introduces them to these moments of truth. Every interaction a customer has with your business, from a phone call to an email, resolving a complaint, it all shapes their perception.
Exactly. And Lou, he emphasizes that it's not just about being polite. It's about anticipating needs and going above and beyond to make those interactions memorable. He tells this really cool story about a personalized wake-up call he got at a Marriott hotel.
Oh, nice.
The operator, they knew his name, his destination, and they even wished him a safe trip. It wasn't anything major, but it made a lasting impression on him.
Those small gestures can make a huge difference,
Oh.
I'm curious about Lou's take on dealing with customer complaints, because that's where things can go wrong so easily.
He really stresses the importance of active listening, especially when a customer is upset, Often all they want is to be heard and understood. And once you've really listened, then you can decide how best to respond. He even gives this example of how McDonald's, of all places, adapted their service based on customer feedback.
McDonald's. I wouldn't exactly think of them as a customer service role model.
You might be surprised. They noticed that their elderly customers would really appreciate a more relaxed dining experience. So they used tablecloths, and they had dedicated staff to take orders and serve food at the tables, but only during certain hours.
That's really interesting. It's all about being sensitive to the needs of your specific customer base, right?
Absolutely. And it paid off big time for McDonald's. They attracted a whole new segment of loyal customers just by listening to what people wanted.
Okay, back to JTA. What are Jud and Terry doing to put all of Lou's advice into action?
Well, they encouraged their team to identify those crucial moments of truth and then brainstorm ways to exceed customer expectations. Lou calls this deliver plus 1%. It's finding those little but meaningful ways to, surprise and delight people. And he uses this great analogy about ducks versus eagles.
Okay, break it down for me. Ducks and eagles, how does that relate to customer service?
Ducks, those are the companies that are stuck in their routines. They just quack about policies and procedures.
Yeah.
But eagles, they soar above the crowd. They take initiative. They find creative solutions. He tells this funny story about a car rental agent who couldn't remove a bogus fee from his contract. She was like, I can't do it. The computer added it.
Yeah.
She was trapped by the system. A classic duck mentality.
I can relate to that. The frustration of dealing with inflexible systems, it's the worst. It sounds like this whole deliver plus 1% concept is about empowering employees to think like eagles.
Exactly. Go above and beyond. Don't just follow the script.
Right. So Judd and Terry are making progress on the customer service front, but now they're facing some internal challenges. Their employees are starting to feel disconnected and underappreciated.
That's right. And this is where Nancy, their people development expert, comes in. She introduces them to this idea of servant leadership.
Okay.
Basically, flipping the traditional pyramid upside down.
Yeah.
Putting your employees first, supporting them in every way possible.
I gotta admit, when I first heard that term, servant leadership, it sounded a little backwards.
I know, right? It kind of goes against everything we think we know about leadership, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, if you create a work environment where people feel genuinely supported and empowered, they're going to be more engaged, more productive, and they'll stick around longer.
So it's not about being a pushover, it's about creating a culture of mutual respect and support.
Exactly. And Nancy, she talks about how the old model of loyalty-based employment, that's gone. Employees today are looking for more than just a paycheck. They want to be part of something meaningful, they want to have a voice, and they want to feel like partners in the business.
So it's a win-win for everybody?
Right. And she also warns them about the dangers of ego-driven leadership.
Okay.
She uses this great phrase, don't let your ego eat your brains.
I love that.
Because when leaders become too focused on their own success, they risk alienating their team, and that stifles innovation.
So how do Jud and Terry take this advice and apply it to their company culture? They seem to be on this role of taking in all this great advice.
Yeah, they're good at taking in the advice.
Yeah.
So they implement a few key changes. First, they completely revamp their performance management system.
Okay.
Nancy believes that most traditional performance systems are just ineffective
Yeah.
because they rely on all this vague criteria, stuff like initiative or promotability, which is really hard to measure objectively.
I see what you mean. It can definitely create a lot of frustration and confusion, not being on the same page.
Exactly. So she advocates for a system that's clear, consistent, and really focused on helping people succeed. And she uses this brilliant analogy of a college professor who gave his students the final exam on the first day of class.
Hold on. The final exam on the first day, I would have failed that class for sure.
I know, right? The faculty was outraged, but the professor's reasoning was that the entire semester should be about helping the students learn the answers and get an A. He really believed in setting people up for success, not for, just arbitrary grading curves.
I love that approach and makes you think differently about performance evaluations.
Absolutely. And Nancy argues that performance management should be about providing clear expectations, regular feedback, and just ongoing coaching, to help people grow and develop their skills. No surprises, everyone knows the test beforehand, and everyone gets the support they need to succeed. She even points to WD-40. They've adopted this philosophy. Don't mark my paper, help me get an A.
That's brilliant. It really shifts the focus from judgment to support and collaboration.
Right.
So Jud and Terry are implementing all these amazing ideas. They're taking care of their customers. They're empowering their employees. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, remember Jud's ego. He's about to make a comeback.
Uh-oh. I have a feeling this is not going to be good.
Well, he gets featured in this big Wall Street Journal article.
Wow.
And it goes straight to his head. All of a sudden, he's obsessed with taking JTA public, seeing the company's name on the stock ticker. It becomes all about growth, no matter the cost.
He's falling into that classic trap of chasing external validation. It's easy to lose sight of what's really important when you're caught up in the hype.
It is. And, he's just working himself to the bone, traveling constantly, neglecting his family. And even the company culture starts to suffer. All those lessons about balance, servant leadership, they all go out the window.
It sounds like things are about to unravel.
They do. Terry tries to warn him, but he's not listening. Employees start leaving, and things just spiral downwards. They even bring on this new COO, Forrest, who's even more aggressive about growth.
So they're doubling down on what seems like a bad strategy at this point.
Yeah, and it backfires big time. Their finances take a major hit, tensions are super high, and honestly, the company's on the verge of collapse.
That's intense. So how do they pull themselves out of this mess? It sounds pretty dire.
It takes a real intervention, a serious one, from Tremendous Jones, his mentor.
Right.
He confronts Jud about his self-destructive behavior and how he's hurting himself and everyone around him. And finally, Jud realizes that he's lost sight of what truly matters. His people, his family, and the values that made JTA successful in the first place.
It's a good reminder that success can be seductive. It can blind you to what's really important in life.
Absolutely. It's a wake-up call for Jud and Terry.
Yeah.
They scrap those IPO plans and focus on rebuilding the company and, repairing their relationships.
I'm glad they had that moment of clarity. So what steps do they take to turn things around?
Well, they bring back Juan, their financial guru,
Right.
and they go all in on his radical transparency strategy. They open their books to their employees, fostering this sense of shared ownership, like we're all in this together.
They did that before, right? And it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it was a huge success. And this time, they also work closely with Lou and Nancy.
They're customer service and people development experts.
Exactly. They really focus on creating a company culture centered around legendary service and empowering employees. Remember Lou's deliver plus 1% concept.
Yeah, going above and beyond to delight customers.
Right. They really encourage their employees to embrace that, to create those moments of truth that turn customers into raving fans.
I love that. It makes such a difference when you feel like a company genuinely cares about you.
It does. And to reinforce those values, they create an Employee of the Moment program, instead of the traditional Employee of the Month.
I like that. It's more immediate, recognizing those everyday acts of service excellence.
Right. And it's less competitive. It fosters more camaraderie. And then they launched this I Care service initiative, focusing on creating an ideal service culture, being attentive to customer needs, being responsive to issues, and empowering employees to deliver exceptional service.
They're really hitting all the key points of building a great customer experience.
They are. They've really found that sweet spot. They're financially stable, their team is thriving, and their customers are happy.
So what about Jud? He went through a lot, personally.
He did. And now that JTA is back on solid ground, Tremendous Jones encourages Jud and Terry to think about their legacy. Not just, what they're building with the company, but their overall impact on the world.
It's not just about achieving success. It's about what you do with it, that whole idea of passing on the prosperity.
Exactly. Tremendous talks about tithing, generously supporting causes they believe in, and, mentoring others to achieve their dreams. He even gives some examples of successful entrepreneurs like Paul J. Meyer, who tithes a big portion of his income, and Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, who was super well known for his philanthropy.
It's about recognizing that wealth isn't just about money. It's about how you use it to make a difference.
Exactly. And Jud and Tara, they really take this to heart. They form this family council that includes their kids and Jeremy, their trusted COO, to start planning for the future of JTA. They want to make sure that the company continues to thrive and uphold their values even after they're gone.
That long-term vision is so important.
It is. It's about thinking beyond yourself and building something that lasts.
So they've come full circle. They've weathered the storms of entrepreneurship, built a successful business, and now they're focused on leaving a positive legacy. It's an inspiring story.
It really is. And it all comes back to those three key elements we talked about at the beginning: finances, people, and customers. Jud and Terry's journey shows how crucial those elements are for any business to truly thrive.
It's not just about profits, it's about building something sustainable and meaningful, something that makes a real difference.
The 1-Minute Entrepreneur, it's a great book for anyone who wants to start a business, but it also makes you think about your impact on the world. It asks, what kind of difference do you want to make?
That's something for all of us to consider, no matter where we are in our journey.
We've covered a lot in this deep dive, from finances to customer service to leadership and legacy building. But remember, this was a deep dive crafted just for you, based on what you wanted to learn.
We hope it's given you some valuable insights and inspiration.
Now it's your turn. Take these lessons, make them your own, and go out there and make your mark on the world.
And until next time, keep on learning, keep on growing. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
So Jud's ego, it kind of comes back with a vengeance. He gets featured in this big Wall Street Journal article.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it just goes straight to his head. Suddenly he's like obsessed with taking JTA public, seeing his name, the company's name on the stock ticker. It becomes all about growth, growth at any cost.
He's falling into that trap,
Yeah.
chasing those external things for validation. It's easy to lose sight of what's really important when you get caught up in all that hype.
It is. And he's working himself ragged,
Yeah.
Traveling all the time. He's neglecting his family, and the company culture starts to suffer. All those lessons about balance, servant leadership, gone, out the window.
Sounds like things are starting to fall apart a little bit.
They do. Terry tries to warn him, but he's not listening. Employees are leaving, and things just spiral downwards. They even hired this new COO, Forrest, who's even more gung-ho about growth.
So they're just doubling down on a strategy that, at this point, seems like a bad idea.
and it blows up in their faces.
Mm.
Their finances tank, tensions are sky high, and the company's honestly on the verge of collapse.
Wow. So how do they get out of this mess? Because it sounds pretty bad.
Cake's intervention, a serious one, from Tremendous Jones, his mentor.
Right. Right.
And he basically confronts Jud,
Yeah.
about his self-destructive behavior, how he's hurting himself and everyone around him. And finally, Jud gets it. He realizes that he's totally lost sight of what really matters. His people, his family, the values that built JTA in the first place.
It's a powerful reminder, I think, that success can be, it can be seductive. It can really blind you to what's truly important.
It really can. So it's a big wake-up call for Jud and Terry. They ditch the IPO plans, and they just focus on rebuilding the company,
Yeah.
And rebuilding their relationship.
It sounds like they needed that reset. So how do they go about turning things around?
They bring back Juan, their financial guru, and they decide to fully embrace his radical transparency idea again. They open their books to the employees, and it fosters this sense of shared ownership, hey, we're all in this together.
They did that before, right? And it seemed to work out pretty well for them.
It did. It was a huge success. But this time, they also work really closely with Lou and Nancy.
The customer service and people development experts.
Exactly. And together, they create a company culture that's all about, legendary service and really empowering employees. Remember Lou's deliver plus 1% concept.
Yeah, going above and beyond for the customer.
Right. They encourage their employees to embrace that, to create those moments of truth that turn customers into those raving fans.
It's amazing how much of a difference it makes when you feel like, a company actually cares.
It does. And to kind of reinforce those values, they even create an employee of the moment program instead of the traditional employee of the month.
Oh, I like that. It's more immediate,
Right.
recognizes those everyday acts of service. They go above and beyond.
Right. And it's less competitive.
Yeah.
It fosters a sense of camaraderie. And then they launched this big I Care service initiative, basically focusing on an ideal service culture, being attentive to customer needs, being responsive to issues, and empowering employees to deliver exceptional service.
So they're really hitting all the key points of what it takes to build a great customer experience.
They really are. And they finally find that sweet spot. They're financially stable, their team is thriving, the customers are happy.
It sounds like they've got it all figured out. What about Jud, though? Personally, he went through a lot.
He did. But now that JTA's back on track, Tremendous Jones encourages Jud and Terry to think bigger, to think about their legacy. Not just, the company, but their overall impact.
Right. That whole idea of passing on the prosperity.
Exactly. And Tremendous, he talks about, tithing, generously supporting causes they believe in, and mentoring others, helping them achieve their dreams. He even gives examples like Paul J. Meyer, who tithes a significant portion of his income, and Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, who is known for his philanthropy.
Right. It's about recognizing that wealth isn't just about money. It's about using what you have to make a difference.
Exactly. And Jud and Terry, they take this to heart. They decide to form this family council. It includes their kids and their COO, Jeremy, who they really trust, to start planning for the future of JTA.
Right.
They want to make sure the company keeps going strong, that their values are upheld even after they're gone.
That's that long-term vision is so important.
It is. It's about thinking beyond yourself, building something that lasts.
So it's like they've come full circle. They weathered the ups and downs, built a successful business, and now they're focused on leaving a positive legacy behind.
And they did it all while staying true to those three key elements. Remember, we talked about them at the beginning.
Finances, people, and customers.
Exactly. Jud and Tara's story really shows how essential those things are for any business to really thrive.
It's a good reminder, I think, that business isn't just about profit. It's about building something that's sustainable, that's meaningful, something that makes a real difference.
The 1 Minute Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's a great book, whether you're thinking about starting a business or you've been at it for a while,
Yeah.
It makes you think about the impact you want to have, what kind of difference you want to make in the world.
And that's a question for all of us, really.
It is. And we've covered so much in this deep dive, finances, customer service, leadership, legacy building. But this was a deep dive designed just for you, based on what you wanted to explore.
And we hope you found it valuable.
Now's your turn to take these ideas, these lessons, and, make them your own. Go out there and make a difference.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.